doorstep, a complete loss of tradition. And she was wearing the same dirty band shirt she wore back in high school. It was the same dirty band shirt I lent her way back in high school. Oh, and she lied. It really seemed like a really good reason to try. With every wolf that she had in herself, oh, I am a lamb. Well, I'm sure things were easier when your dad was in high school. Your car or your hair, how much was up there you could comb through? Your mom never would have worn your dad's favorite shirt just to spite him. And she never would have trampled around this old town just to bite him. Oh, why'd you lie? We could have lasted just a couple more years. My mom would have died if she knew you were feeding me all those beers in your front seat. That's how we ended up way back in the backseat. I am a lamb. Well, I cut my teeth on the front and the backseat of your sister's car that you stole just for summer stars. I'm in the middle on the back by my side, and I could have listened to my mother or to my mind. It's pretty rad, all the pictures of your dad in high school. Man, his car and his hair, so much up there he could comb through. I don't know why you lied. We could have lasted just a couple more years. My mom, man, she died. She knew you were feeding me.
This is WOMMLP operating out in Burlington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. It's the Rocket Shop. I'm your host, Tom Proxo, and with me tonight is Plastique Mammals. How's it going, guys?
Great. We are fantastic.
Wonderful. Do you guys just want to quickly introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Remy.
And I'm Evan.
And we're Plastique Mammals.
So if you want to kick off with your first song, just quick intro and then get going.
Cool.
got me mid-bite there for a Cliff Bar. Oh, it's great. What was that one called?
That one's actually just called Intro.
It fits as well.
Thanks.
That was actually was going to be one of my middle questions, but it's definitely popped back into my head now. But being purely instrumental, you don't rely on any lyrics to kind of lend the names to songs.
Yeah.
So how do you guys end up picking names to songs, being an entirely instrumental band?
So I have kind of just like a note going in my phone, and whenever I hear something that I think is like an interesting little phrase that somebody says or that I read or just something really evocative, I write it down. And then when we come together and we put something together, I'll usually try and find something that that kind of fits the vibe, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you ever hear a phrase and then craft a song around the phrase itself? Or is it the other way around? Is it that you'll hear a phrase and you're like, I know the exact song this goes with?
It's usually more of the latter. On our album we put out in January, the opening track is called "The Worrying Keeps Me Up at Night." That one kind of came to me when I was in school. I was at college, and there was just this light in my dorm room that just made a ton of noise. And so that kind of started, the way that I sort of started forming that song was I figured out what pitch the whir was and just kind of started building around it. But other than that one, it's usually just the title usually comes after the fact.
Yeah. Talking of titles and names, real bold move on naming your first album Best Of. Decisions behind that very audacious move?
We just kind of thought it was going to be funny, I guess.
Yeah. Just kind of, I think it's more of a defense mechanism, kind of that layer of irony, you know?
Better than this.
Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's the worst of. And we move on. But.
I think, do you know Aaron Castles Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of his albums is something Part 2. And he said he hates that he called it that now because everyone asks him what Part 1 was, and when Part 3 is coming, it's like, I was just kind of joking around. So that's your danger of coming up with these best ofs, and your next one's going to have to be like greatest hits or something.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked a little bit about it. The next full length we put out is definitely going to be the second best of Plastic Mammals.
So your album came out in January.
Yeah.
Before that, you had a single and an EP. So you've been like slowly ratcheting up. Tell me what it was like. First of all, making your first album, because that's always a big first for a band.
Yeah. Well, it took a really long time.
2.5 years.
It took a really long time. We started playing together we've been playing together for a really long time, since like middle school. But this project started like in 2015, and it just took us that long sort of to, it took us a really long time to sort of find a sound.
Yeah.
We started out, that EP that we put out way back when is definitely a lot different from where we're at now, and it just took us like probably longer than it should have to really lock down that sound that we wanted.
Recorded the full album, scrapped it, and redid it again.
Yeah. I think we recorded that album like 3 times before we settled.
Oh wow.
on it. Yeah.
Was this all home studio stuff, or were you guys paying for studio space and you kind of had to knock it out 3 times in a row?
We kind of split it down the middle, recording in our respective parents' houses.
All right.
So.
That's the cheapest place to do it, let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
There's food in the fridge, it's great. Why do you think it took you so long to kind of really nail down the sound that you have now? And do you feel like this is kind of the finished article, or do you think you guys have got more opportunity to kind of go on?
Well, I mean, I definitely think that we're still kind of. I mean, we've written a lot of new stuff in the last couple months, and it's even different than just the album we put out. It really, like, we started out, and I kind of had it in my head, like, oh, I want to make a full, like, band sound out of just a bass. Like, I kind of had a little bit of hubris about it. But then we discovered synthesizers, and yeah. But I think we're still kind of working a lot of stuff out.
For sure.
Yeah.
We have like a solid base that we found with our first album. I think we just kind of try to expand off that at this point.
Yeah.
And is it always just been the two of you, or has it been other musicians, or are you ever looking out for a third or fourth member, or are you kind of like solidly the dream team at this point?
I think it's just going to be the two of us.
Yeah. I mean, Evan and I, we play in a couple different acts together. We play Entrance to Trains is us, and then Evan's brother Alex. And I mean, the three of us, I mean, we've been playing together since we were like 14. So we just kind of know each other well enough that I would feel really uncomfortable, I think, playing with playing really regularly with much different of a group of people. Yeah, I think we're pretty locked into each other.
I would say so, yeah.
And you mentioned you've been writing some new songs recently. So am I to understand it that you've got another record coming out in the near future?
Yeah, we've got an EP that we're putting together. We want to try and get it out this winter. We don't have a date yet, but we are going into the studio this weekend to start tracking. So hopefully we'll get that out by the end of this year. If not, maybe another January release.
So is this one a studio album?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going down to Pine Street, and we're gonna have Charlie Hill.
Oh, nice.
Track it for us.
And how has the process been getting these tracks together? Do you feel like you've got a full album already there, or do you feel that you're still going to be kind of chopping and dicing while you're in the recording process?
Go ahead.
I'd say it's pretty much locked in at this point. We've been writing for months now on this.
Yeah. We definitely we've been talking about putting this little EP together for a while, like 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's only been the last, I think, like couple weeks that it's started to really like cement into what I think it's gonna wind up sounding like when we track it. But yeah, I mean, I never finish anything. I just kind of abandon it. So.
Well, your first album came out after 3 attempts, so I mean, it sounds like you've learned from that mistake, and you're going into this one with a bit more of a solid idea of where you're looking to go.
Yeah,
We hope so.
yeah, hopefully.
There's like a 75% degree of confidence over on this side of the studio right now. I'm hoping that might raise up towards the end. But I mean, you got the last one out in January, which feels like a long time ago now, being November, but it was still 2018.
Yeah.
So to get another album out in the same year, that's pretty prolific. If you've got ideas to continue this on, you're going to get 2 out in 2019 as well.
I mean, I'd like to.
Yeah, just kind of feeling it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at least, me personally, at least, I'm always working on the next album. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'd love to hear. So, I mean, was Intro the first song from the new EP?
Yeah, that will be the intro on the new EP.
I'm glad that you're keeping it as intro and not just screwing everyone's heads again with the naming conventions. Would you like to play the next track on the EP?
Yeah, let's do it.
Has it got a title?
This one's called "She Found She Had Grown Antlers."
All right. We'll explore that in a minute. Take it away.
to do that again. This one's still pretty tricky. Live loops are fun.
Plastic Mammals there. You might have to remind me again with the title of that track.
She found she had grown antlers.
She had found she had grown antlers. Quick, who quipped that phrase?
I read it in a children's book. I work in a third grade classroom, and it was just some like old children's book from the 50s, I think. And I thought it was weird and kind of trippy for 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
So I stole it.
Well, it kind of sounds pretty trippy for 8-year-olds, but then again, I think 8-year-olds is probably peak trippiness in human life. A lot of weird things going on then. So just listening to that track and watching you guys play this, there is so many layers to creating a track, to having that full experience.
Yeah.
How do you even start? How do you even get your head around where you know, from square one to square 227?
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about loops is that they loop. And you can kind of I'll usually start out with like one little lick that I like, and then just, you know, through trial and error, just keep trying things over the top of it. Oh, I like this harmony, I don't like this. And then once I find one I like, I just move on to the next one. And so they just kind of, yeah, I usually come to Evan with stuff that I locked myself in my room and just kind of didn't come out until I found 3 minutes that kind of work together.
How long does that take you usually?
Sometimes I can do it in like, I don't know, a couple hours. Sometimes there's one track that we're going to play in a bit that took us like months to really...
Yeah, we wrote it like 4 times.
Yeah.
We could never figure out what worked.
Yeah, sometimes it's just... It either happens organically or it takes us just forever to, you know, to just
Really
jam it into place.
force it out there, yeah.
Yeah.
Really getting that square peg in the round hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it a case of kind of like sitting it down and leaving it and walking away and going doing your own thing and then coming back to it, or is it a case of like, no, we're here till dawn?
No, a lot of the time, like, we'll work on something and I don't know, I'll just get frustrated and say, I'll go home and do it. and no, it's nice. Like, sometimes I'll go home and I'll have like a half of a song, and I'll just leave it in my loop pedal and turn the volume down and come back to it in, you know, a couple hours or a couple days sometimes. And it's nice to, you know, it's still there. I don't have to, you know, relearn something. I can just kind of pick it up and do it that way, which is real nice.
All right. How much do you steal? And don't mind, apologies for that kind of question, but you know, when you say you got like a nice lick or a nice little you know, snippet of music that's going around in your head, how much of it you're like, oh, this sounds pretty good, I'm going to take that, and then this sounds pretty good, I'm going to take that, and then before you know it, you've got your own creation. Do you do that, or is it a real case of it just kind of pops up in your own head?
Like from other artists. I mean, definitely. I think that's the mark of. I mean, art is all about stealing from other artists.
Yeah,
right. I definitely like. I'll definitely like. I'll listen to something, and pick out like one little piece of it. Like, oh, I really like this bass line, or I really like, I don't know, this one thing that he did for half a measure, and then I'll just kind of, you know, do my own attempt to recreate maybe that 8-note sequence, and then just, you know, build around that and do my own thing with that. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I never do that consciously, but like I always have like beats in my head from things I'm hearing all the time. It definitely like influences me to go a certain way. You know, like a style that I've been hearing a lot of lately and dig. You know.
Have you got any artists you guys listen to kind of are regularly and kind of are influenced by them? Because you guys play some music that's not really, it's not exactly mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who do you look for, like, percussion wise?
I don't really know. Like for this band, not really much people because I don't really plan that like alternative style much. So I just kind of figured it out as I went.
Yeah.
So I don't really have what comes to mind.
Yeah, I like a lot of like 80s pop is kind of my wheelhouse. I listen to a lot of like A Flock of Seagulls. Miami Sound Machine has been my jam recently. And then like artists who do what we do, like L1011. I learned a lot, especially like methodology wise. And his name escapes me, but just by like watching YouTube videos of L1011 and kind of seeing how he puts loops together and builds up from a lot of my structuring of how I do things comes from that.
Yeah. I mean, there's some great resources online for that kind of thing. I mean, I personally can't get my head around it, but my roommate certainly does. He's bought himself a little MIDI keyboard, and it's fascinating watching him just kind of build these things together. Yeah. So you guys met each other, you said, back in the 4th grade. So I'm guessing you're local.
Yeah, we grew up in Swanton.
Yeah,
okay.
About 45 minutes north.
Yeah.
And then you go to college together here?
No, we kind of went our separate ways in college. You kind of went off and did some music. Entrance to Trains did some stuff in Connecticut. Yeah. And then when we came back, we just were like, so we're gonna jam again, right? and I kind of jumped in as the third man of Entrance to Trains, and then I kind of took some material to Evan, and we just kind of picked up where we left off in high school.
Was post-rock your first go-to genre?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, a lot of the early stuff I feel was really like pop rock kind of.
Yeah, definitely a very different style.
Yeah, a little pop punk kind of influence. And then it just kind of grew from there. We turned each other on to a lot of music and just kind of grew together that way. And the synthesizer, yeah.
Synthesizer, the threshold moment for Plastique Mammals. And then names, back onto names things. Plastique Mammals, I really love the name. I can't believe it's not been used by another band, if I'm honest. It sounds so familiar in my head. But
wow.
it's obviously it's unique to you guys. So
I guess that's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, my brain keeps going back to Plastic Beach by Gorillaz, I think, which is why I think it sounds so familiar. But was that inspired by anything, or was that one of the kind of like things you heard in the background and it became your moniker?
Well, we started out, like, when I first came to Evan with sort of, like, our earlier, like, primordial stuff, my intention was, hey, like, I'm going to do this as a solo thing and just go by Remy. Will you play drums for me? And we found kind of, I guess, as we were writing, that Evan had a little too much creative input to justify that. So, literally... just slid right in. So, no, we were playing a show just under my name one night at Radio Bean, and we kind of had the talk before we went on stage, like, hey, let's be a band instead. And so we just sat there like an hour before our set and just like rattled off just like phrases and just syllables that sounded cool. And I don't know where it came from out of that, but it was just kind of one of the names on my phone when we were done, and we settled on it and christened it 10 minutes later.
And your aesthetic, your design aesthetic, especially for the album cover, and I'm seeing a few things on Facebook in terms of like event flyers and whatnot. Your aesthetic is very like basic, minimalist. I think you got Times New Roman as your font for the best of album, which is a great combination of things. How does that fit? How do you feel that fits kind of your musical sound, and do you feel that fits also with the title of your band?
Oh, that's a good question, because a lot of it is just because I don't I don't like outsourcing graphic design work. I like to do it myself. It's it's just kind of self-indulgent, but I'm also really bad at graphic design. So it's kind of just that is the height of my Photoshop ability.
2 triangles, Times New Roman in white. Boom.
Yeah.
Well, it all it does fit together. It sounds it's almost laughing in the face of the rest of music, calling your album best of, having Times New Roman as your font, and then playing something that's actually incredibly complicated and very musically difficult. It does seem like you kind of got a bit of an inside joke going.
I think you're giving us a little more credit than we deserve, but I appreciate it. But I appreciate it. I'll take it.
This is my interpretation, anyway. I was reading the 7 Days article on your latest album, and your music was described as an extended lucid dream. Would you agree with that description?
I mean, I liked it. It was really evocative. I mean, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's kind of. I feel like it's really easy to let it sort of fall into the background. At least when I go back and re-listen to it, I feel like I fall into states of just kind of half listening to it, but then. I don't know. I feel like it also kind of just snaps you right back into it every once in a while. You know what I mean? Like you remember where you are. So I guess I'll go with that.
All right.
I think my favorite description of our band was a drunk guy at Skinny Pancake that called us an emo L1011.
Yeah.
That works too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we got time for one more song, and there's or 2 more songs. I feel, but you said the last track on the EP is kind of a twofer.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear that.
All right. Cool.
So yeah, take it away when you're ready.
Sweet. Do you have the phone? I'm just not gonna do it. Just give me 1 second.
Nice. Plastic Mammals there. What was the last 2 songs called?
So the first one was I Have an Idea, and then the last one was Tiger Woods.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to leave them as leave those titles as they are.
Sure.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming in. It's
Thank
been
you
a
for
real
having
pleasure.
us.
No, anytime. And you've got to come in after you've completed the EP.
Will do.
Yeah, would like to hear the greatest hits, or sorry, best of part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in.
Hey, thanks, Tom.
Next week, I think we are taking a break because it's Halloween. And then the week after that, we've got Julius Caesar and potentially someone else as well. But we'll see what happens there. This has been The Rocket Shop. I've been your host, Tom Proctor. And yeah, I'll catch you in 2 weeks.